This is my thinking face. Hello, and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity live discussion. Let me know if you can't hear me. Okay, hopefully you can hear me fine. It's weird not doing it with other people, but anyway, um, I'm here to talk about the future of Star Trek. um, don't know why I said it like that. Anyway, I want to say hello to the two people watching me. I see Norman in the chat saying hi, Mark. Well, hello right back. Thanks for joining. So, I don't know if I have a whole lot to say. I just have some thoughts. So the for those who don't know, Paramount is merging with Skydance, and yeah, it's been a whole thing. They're still in the process of doing so. They're close to doing it, I think. And yeah, so there was a big controversy. If you don't follow politics or the news at all, you might not be aware that CBS or Paramount, who owns CBS, was sued by Donald Trump for the way they edited a Kamala Harris interview was on 60 Minutes. Um, and yeah, back during the election. And Donald Trump sued them, and the lawsuit was frivolous. If they took it to court, it would get laughed out of court. But the problem is that, as I said, Paramount is trying to merge with Skydance, and Donald Trump, who oversees the government agencies that could deny the merger. So they're scared that if they fought him in court, they would he would not allow them to merge, which, if you know Donald Trump, is a very likely possibility. So, so they settled out of court. They gave Donald Trump $16 million for a lawsuit that they could have easily won. So a lot of people, including Stephen Colbert, saw this as a bribe, and Stephen Colbert said as much on one of his monologues on the Late Show. Then 3 days after he had said monologue, his whole show got canceled. Um, now you might be wondering, what does this have to do with Star Trek? I'm getting there because it has to do with Paramount and Skydance. So some people say there's, of course, Paramount themselves said, "Oh, it had nothing to do. It's just financial decision. It was costing us too much money." Blue, 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 and nobody's buying that. The other theory out there is that Donald Trump asked Paramount as a condition of accepting their merger to fire Stephen Colbert, although because we know that Donald Trump doesn't like him. But we don't know. We don't know exactly what's going on. But yeah, everyone's in the outrage over the Late Show getting canceled. Me personally, like I'm against it in principle, especially if they did it because of his monologue or because Donald Trump told them to. Either way is fucked up. But honestly, I don't think he's that funny. Like when it comes to the late night shows, I prefer Seth Meyers. He's the best. Um, and if you count John Oliver, well, though that's a weekly show, but he's the best. The Daily Show is also awesome. I love like Desi. She's the best host. They like rotate hosts now. Jon Stewart is cool too. Um, and then after that, I guess I go with Jimmy Fallon, and then not Jimmy Fallon, sorry, Jimmy Kimball, Jimmy Kimmel, and then Stephen Colbert. And then below Stephen Colbert is Jimmy Fallon, who is so incredibly unfunny. I cannot believe how unfunny Jimmy Fallon is. I can't believe he has like the prime spot. But anyway, so no, I don't know. I've just never been a huge fan of Colbert. I just don't find his humor all that funny. But that being said, I think it is fucked up that they fired him over this. Now, you might say, how is this relevant to Star Trek? Well, it seems like, this new merger thing, this new Paramount are going through and like weeding out all the shows and uh, stuff they think it might be like stuff they think is woke, which Star Trek is. So I don't know if that would affect that or not, but I do know that reading the tea leaves on what's been going on with Star Trek, it looks likely that there some changes are coming because they canceled Discovery after 5 seasons. Then they canceled Lower Decks after 5 seasons. Picard finished like natural. Is always planned for 3 seasons. Prodigy got kicked off the whole fucking network, and so they're like cutting back all the shows. And now they announced that Strange New Worlds will have 2 more seasons, and then that will be canceled. So I get the feeling that they're winding down on Star Trek. In fact, the Starfleet Academy show was started production before this merger was announced. I have a feeling that if it was afterwards, that they never would have started it, and I actually fear that it might not last long. That it might be canceled right away as well. Let me get back to this. Let me just jump in the chat real quick because I saw Norman had a couple other things to say. Norman says, while he refused to be interviewed in the same 60-minute episode himself. Yeah, that's right. Trump refused that interview. I remember that, and 60 Minutes gave him shit over that. This is just his revenge. And plus, like, that kind of editing, like, speaking as an editor myself or someone who's been trained as an editor, the kind of editing that they did in that interview was like the normal. Every new show does that kind of editing, and I've been pointing out examples of Fox editing Trump's interview in a much worse way. But that's not really what it's about. He just is trying to silence media critics. That's what this is about because he's a tyrant. But anyway, um, next comment. Sorry, Norman says they closed up animation entirely, didn't they? Yeah. I mean, well, they got rid of Lord X and then Prodigy. Jordan Johnson, Mark, what do you think of that wedding song? Personally, I miss "Isn't It Romantic." What I don't remember the wedding song. But did they? I know they played the Wham afterwards, and I didn't during the dancing or whatever. I didn't really like that. Oh, you must be talking about that. Yeah, Isn't It Romantic was when Data was. Yeah, Isn't It Romantic is definitely better than Wham. Sorry, but anyway, so yeah, so with Star Trek, um, I was reading up on what the AI had to say about it on Google and other sort of information on Google. So we don't know exactly what the new Skydance Masters are going to do with Star Trek or what Paramount is going to do with Star Trek. I mean, you could say it's a good thing that they're being bought out by Skydance because the other alternative was them just going out of business and going bankrupt, and in which case Star Trek would probably end. But I was reading what they were saying, and they were saying that they want the movies and the TV shows to be on the same page, to be coalescent. I'm trying to find their exact wording. It was unify the franchise. That was their exact wording. They want to unify the franchise across different media for a more well planned Star Trek universe, similar to how Disney manages Marvel. And so there's a couple ways to interpret that. Um, the way I look at it is they want to do what Marvel does. By having all the TV shows and movies connected, and how you have to watch one and get the other. So to me, this makes me think they wanted to all take place in the same setting, the same timeline. Which, to be honest, like, so I had this discussion with Darren because he was saying something along the same lines, that he thought that Star Trek should be unified and all taking place in the same timeline or the same period. And I actually disagree with that. Actually, I know everyone gives Alex Kurtzman shit for everything, and I do have my issues with him myself. But I liked his general idea of spanning out and trying to appeal to many different audiences by trying to appeal to kids with Prodigy, to trying to appeal to the more like younger adult animation audience with Lower Decks, trying to appeal with classic Star Trek fans with Strange New Worlds, or trying to appeal with the more modern, maybe Star Trek fan who watched the reboots with Discovery, and trying to appeal to the TNG fans with Picard. So, and then they got the Starfleet Academy show, which is trying to appeal to teenagers. So I think I actually like that model, and I think that is a smart model to like span out. Now you could argue you could do that while still having a coalescent universe that all takes place in the same timeline and that's more unified. Like Marvel does that in the way with its various different shows, but it still all takes place in the continuous timeline. Like it's all builds one after the other, and it's going in the same chronological order. I mean, you get the few things like that Black Widow movie or fucking Captain Marvel that's a bit out of order, but for the most part, it's all in sync. It's all in order. And I don't know, because for me, it very strongly depends on which timeline you choose. Now, I'm just reading into it that they're gonna all be at the same timeline. It could be that they're not, but they would still be related somehow. But for me, it would make more sense of what they're talking about is if they all do it in the same timeline. Here's the thing: if they choose the fucking Kelvin universe, if they cancel all the shows that are taking place in the Prime universe and say everything's in the Kelvin universe now, I would be so motherfucking outraged to the point of not even wanting to watch Star Trek anymore. I would be so fucking upset if they did that. But if they did it in like TNG era, like the after Picard, like 25th century sort of thing, then I might be okay with it then. Or even like, yeah, maybe even like the Lower Decks timeline or something like that. If they did it around TNG era, because that's what, to be fair, this is what Star Trek was doing in the 90s when TNG and DS9 were on at the same time, when DS9 and Voyager were on at the same time, and TNG were having movies. This is what they were doing. They were all set in the same continuous timeline, and they were all going at the same pace, and they were all happening at the same time until Enterprise, of course. Um, so, in theory, I don't have an issue with that because I like that. But I think going in different time periods allowed the franchise to branch out and do different things. If they stick with one timeline, it's going to tether them to that timeline. And so, for example, if they choose the Strange New Worlds, the original series timeline, I would hate that because then it's just a problem doing prequelitis and you're constantly bumping up against canon and you're constantly and I just don't like that time period that much. I'm just way more interested in the TNG time period. And then, of course, they could always do the 32nd century timeline. So maybe they will keep Starfleet Academy and just build everything around that. Um, in which case, yeah, like, I don't know. I've yet to be impressed with this 32nd century timeline. I mean, I like Discovery well enough, like, especially the last two seasons were good, but I don't know. I didn't really get a firm grasp of the world building that they're doing, and I don't think it doesn't come off as clear as like TNG DS9 used to do. And I don't know. So it depends on how they would develop it. So I would be somewhat open to it. Um. So yeah, let me jump back in the chat, see what's going on here. Norman says, "Are you referring to Wham?" And Jordan Johnson, "I knew you wouldn't disappoint me with that obscure reference." Don't you think we're due for a movie? I don't count that horseshit they released on Paramount Plus. No, I don't either. Norman says Section 31 was a bad extended episode. 100%. Jordan says, I think we should have a movie about the Borg Queen personally. I hope you're joking. I hope that's a joke, Jordan. Norman says, Kelvin has not been happening for about 10 years now. I suspect if consistent, it would be Prime. Jordan says, Mark, you must address the elephant in the room. A shirtless Spock, hot or not? Was he shirtless? I didn't even notice. I'm not even lying. What? He was shirtless? That went over my head. I guess I just don't pay attention to that kind of thing, so I couldn't answer that question. And Norman says, as long as not in the decontamination joint. Oh, jeez. Okay, so, So there's a couple movies in development that they said are still in development, Star Trek movies. They're still trying to develop the fourth Kelvin Universe film. Personally, hey Brandon, how's it going? Personally, I was hoping that the Kelvin Universe film, that the next one, this is what would be the best thing for me ever, is if they destroyed the Kelvin universe and undid it. It's like, oh, this doesn't exist anymore. You should know how I feel about the Kelvin universe. This is a cheap trick by lazy writers to get around canon and be like, oh, let's just do whatever the fuck we want and so blah and change Star Trek into Star Wars. Fuck the Kelvin timeline. But anyway, but they're still popular. Not idiots, I'm sorry. I shouldn't be rude because it's most of the general public. Let me just say, people like that first Star Trek movie, which was so horrendous, 2009 one. And God, that was easily the worst one. People are, oh, this is the best one. Why? There's no character story. It's jumbled mess. It doesn't make any fucking sense. The villain was one of the worst flat two-dimensional villains I've ever seen ever. All the battle scenes were just CGI diarrhea that's hard to follow. And Spock and Kirk are just taking turns being captain and first officer back and forth. That made no sense. And then Kirk got promoted from a cadet to the fucking captain of the goddamn flagship of Starfleet. And there was product placement in it. So fuck that movie. Jesus Christ. But anyway, sorry, I'm kind of off topic here. So 2 movies planned. First was the fourth Kelvin movie, and the other was this movie set in the past. They didn't clarify. I can't remember. I think I got the impression that was pre-Enterprise, or maybe it's post-Enterprise. But somewhere in the past. Why the fuck? Why the fuck are they doing this? Why would you do this? Why would you do a movie set in the past? I don't know. I guess I shouldn't discount it because I don't know the exact idea. But yeah, Brandon in the chat says blood pressure mark. Yes, I know. I do need to watch it. My blood pressure, that is. Jordan says, aren't we due for Starfleet Academy, though? I am all for slowing things down. Having 3 or 4 shows at once was a little too much. Brandon saying, amen, let it die. I guess that's in regards to the Kelvin universe, 100%. Jordan said, but the car, man, that car, that was so stupid. And Brandon, people are idiots, absolutely. And Norman saying Samuel Clemens, the series. That's right. Now I remember. Um, so as for the Starfleet Academy, yes, as far as I know, that is still going forward. That they were barreling ahead with production of that. I can't remember if it actually started filming or not. I think maybe it had. Maybe someone in the chat can tell me. But it's been cast. They have the scripts are written, so that's going ahead. As I said, I'm sure that started before the merger. So I don't know if it's going to be short lived after the merger or if they're just going to grandfather it in. Um, yeah, that's maybe they will, or maybe they'll set everything, as I said, to coalesce around it. See, I'm kind of worried by the wording of this because the president of Skydance apparently worked on those said crappy Kelvin universe films, so I do have a genuine fear that he's going to want to turn the whole Star Trek universe into the Kelvin timeline, the movies and TV shows, and have everything set in the Kelvin timeline. And my fucking god, would that be terrible? And I think if that's the truth, then they haven't learned their lesson, because the reason why people hated Discovery. I mean, there's plenty of reasons, because they're, bad people who think it's woke, because they have no morals. But no, but genuine criticism of Discovery, which there's plenty. I have my own, a lot of criticism about Discovery. Genuine criticism of Discovery. I think a lot of it has to do with how they're trying to copy the Kelvin Universe films, how they made the whole style. Like, for me, it's like the cinematography where they're spinning the camera around. They're like trying to capture the kinetic energy that people liked of the Kelvin Universe films, which I don't. That's why I liked Strange New Worlds, because Strange New Worlds, like, slowed everything down, and it does sometimes have a little bit of kinetic energy, to be fair, but it has like scenes of just people in the room where the camera's static and not constantly moving everywhere, and people talking in the room, like, classic Trek Next Generation, Deep Space Nine used to do all the time. And it just had that feel. That was like the first thing I noticed about Strange New Worlds. I want them to keep that. And also, like, the style of that they modeled the bridge of in Discovery and Strange New Worlds was a lot more based on the Kelvin universe, and also the style of just having a lot of action and being kinetic energy and all that sort of thing. And I think that's to the detriment. Like, they need to move away from the Kelvin films, not try to go back towards them. And I'm just afraid on just the way that they're talking about, oh, we need to unify the movies and the TV shows, that they're talking about making everything like the fucking Kelvin movies. And that would be so terrible. So terrible. I really, really, really hope that they don't do that. Now, if they, like, as I said, if they coalesced and did something like original and new, then okay. And by the way, I forgot to mention one of the most important pieces of information. Again, this is all speculation and rumors, but it's been kind of hinted at that they would get rid of Alex Kurtzman and bring in someone new. Now, I know a lot of people, even as I said, the people with legitimate grievances, despise Alex Kurtzman and hate Alex Kurtzman and blame him for destroying Star Trek and trampling all over the childhoods of whatever bullshit. And to be fair, I have my issues. I definitely have my issues with Alex Kurtzman, although probably not as many as I had with Rick Berman, if we're being honest. Like, it's funny because I heard someone, say once that, oh, they should fire Alex Kurtzman and bring Rick Berman back. I'm like, are you fucking mental? Like, what the hell is your problem? I mean, Rick Berman, as I said a billion times, is not why 90s Star Trek was good. It was Michael Piller and Jerry Taylor and Ronald D. Moore and Ira Stephen Bear. That's why 90s Star Trek was good. God fucking damn it. And Manny Koto, if you talk about the Enterprise section. That's more 2000 Star Trek, but still, like, ugh! Like, that's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Bring Rick Berman back. But anyway, sorry, I'm getting sidetracked. So, um, the so getting rid of Alex Kurtzman could be a good thing or could be a bad thing. I think people who are like have rage in their eyes and thinks everything he touches turns to shit. I mean, yes, you could point to the Section 31 movie and be like, you see what this fucker did? But Lower Decks is amazing. Um, Prodigy was pretty damn good. Strange New Worlds is pretty damn good. And there were good aspects of Discovery, particularly the later seasons. I think had some really strong aspects of it. So yeah, but let's not even talk about Picard. Let's not go there. But Alex Kurtzman seemed to be more directly involved in Discovery and Strange New Worlds. Seems like that was his thing that he was directly involved with. And Discovery, as I said, mixed results. Strange New Worlds, pretty damn fucking good. But yeah, I don't think he actually had that much involvement in Picard, which is, in my opinion, the worst Star Trek show ever made. God, it was. Season 1 was a mixed bag of great and awful stuff. Season 2 was the biggest fucking dumpster fire that I ever had the mispleasure of viewing. And season 3 had potential that was stifled by fan service and ended up being quite bad overall, in my humble opinion. But anyway, but as I said, I don't think that was him. Like, I would point the finger more at Kiva Goldsmith and Terry Matalas, because Terry Matalas was involved in season 2 as well. And then he made season 3, and basically his opinion of season 3 was like, oh, fuck the first 2 seasons. Let's do something totally different and disregard. But anyway, so if they got rid of Alex Kurtzman, would the Star Trek franchise be better off? My answer to that would be, well, it totally depends on who they brought in to replace him. Because things could get worse. You think things are bad now, things could get worse. Especially if they bring in some jag-off idiot who doesn't really know anything about Star Trek, doesn't know what he's doing, and makes everything set in the Kelvin universe and tries to make them all like the Abrams films. That would be a fucking disaster. But if they brought in a genuine Star Trek fan, like Enterprise did with Manny Koto, or Lower Decks did with, is his name Mike McMahon? Blanking on his name. I think that's Mike McMahon. Maybe. But yeah, if they brought in someone like that, like a true fan who understands the franchise and is going to coalesce on a vision, then okay, it might be better than Alex Kurtzman. So you tell me that they're going to fire Alex Kurtzman, like, and again, this is not confirmed; it's just speculation at this stage. But if that was to be confirmed, if they were going to come out and say that, I would neither be happy or sad. I would be tentatively waiting to see who the fuck took over and what they did with it. It could be a good thing, but it also could be a terrible thing, or it could make no difference in quality whatsoever, and it'd be pretty much the same. So, one second before I jump back in the chat, is that for me, what I'm worried about is that oh, sorry, I lost my train of thought. I'm going to jump back in the chat. Maybe I will remember what I was saying earlier. Okay, so let's go back. Where were we at? Okay, so I think we're here. Yeah, Jordan Johnson said, Mark, what did you think of that colony in the final episode of season 2 of Strange New Worlds? Do you call bullshit on that colony? It just happened to be based on the 20th century Earth. You know what? I don't know if I'd go as far as to call bullshit on it. I did think it was a bit silly, and I didn't really buy it. But I was like, I let them have that one. I'm like, fine, whatever. It's not the worst thing I've seen in the world. It's whatever. And then Jordan Johnson, I thought the barbershop was too much personally. Yeah, I mean, nostalgia exists. So, I mean, you got towns that try to emulate the 1800s or whatever. So, Ren Fair. So I don't know. I'm not that opposed to it. Norman saying, "Remember the historical Scottish colony, Jordan." Oh yeah, and the masterpiece of an episode known as "Dinner Light the Candle" and "Dinner to Go to the House." Anyway, uh, let's see. Sub Rosa, I called subpar, Brandon says. Dinner to light the candle. And let's see, where else are we? They need to bring back William Shatner to direct. Who's with me? Not me! First of all, dude's in his 90s. Just leave him alone. Secondly, he was never a good director to begin with. And thirdly, I know you're just joking. At least I hope you are. Anyway, Brandon's saying, where's the emoji for tangent? Let's see. But that's, Jordan Johnson says, but that's my favorite video of yours to watch, Mark. I'm just saying. Which one are you referring to? Are you referring to my review of something to do with Picard season 2, perhaps? An online bitch session, because that would describe my live discussion I did with my sister on Picard season 2. It was just us like bitching and complaining and just in awe of how fucking terrible that was. Jesus Christ. Jordan Johnson, didn't QT want to direct Star Trek the movie? Yes! Quentin Tarantino did, and I was so excited about it. And I was like, "Oh God, I can't wait! I hope they do this." It's not going to happen. That got shelved quite a while ago. So at first, like Tarantino was going to produce and not direct, and they actually hired some people to write the scripts for it, and it was going to be based on. I'm blanking on the name of the episode, but the one when they go to the planet is they're all Chicago gangsters. It was going to be piece of the action. That's it. They're going to base it on that, and I think they were even talking about making it like the Kelvin universe version of that, but there would be actual like gangsters who would be like, Quentin Tarantino gangsters. It would be like a Quentin Tarantino movie with Kirk and Spock. Uh, but then that got shelved entirely. That's not going to happen. Which I don't know. That premise does not sound like the best premise to me. But I would have just loved a Quentin Tarantino Star Trek movie. I just would have. I just would. And I remember all these fucking idiots were whining about it when they first announced, "Oh, Tarantino directs Star Trek. Star Trek's supposed to be a bright future." I'm like, shut the fuck up. Tarantino is one of the best directors of all time. I let him direct fucking anything, especially my favorite franchises. I desperately wanted to see it. And I'm like, God damn, what the fuck is wrong with you whiners? Ugh! I hope they didn't factor into why that movie was canceled, because fuck them if they did. But anyway, um, Mike McMahon was Lower Decks showrunner. Yes, so I'm correct. That is who I was thinking of. Brandon says, "Damn it, was Reese Darby in the Wedding Bell Blues?" Yes, he was. Worf and Alexander in Deadwood? Oh God, no. I have only just caught up with Strange New Worlds. Okay, and then Jordan Johnson says Picard season 2, of course. But anywho, to answer my earlier question about what he was referring to, but yeah, so I forget what I was, what I was gonna say about this whole Skydance thing. Oh, about like firing Alex Kurtzman and getting an entire new, because it did imply like they want new leadership or new vision. Um, yeah, if it's a Star Trek, someone who understands Star Trek and someone who appreciates it and so what they want to do, that one quote about trying to make it more like Marvel, that's kind of a red flag for me. Not that I have anything against Marvel, but it's the fact that whenever other studios or other franchises try to be like Marvel, they end up sucking. DC Snyderverse. Excuse me. In fact, there's a lot of failed, like the whole Dark Universe thing. There's was so many movie franchises that tried to replicate what Marvel did and just fell flat on their fucking faces because they were just wanting to make money and they didn't understand what actually made Marvel good. So when they say that, I'm like, are you going to do the same shit like all these other failed franchises did by trying to be like Marvel? Hopefully not. I think maybe they just mean in terms of the fact, as I said, like the TV shows and the movies and everything are connected and they're flowing together in the same chronological order. Um, as I said, in theory, I don't have a problem with that, but it depends. It depends on which time period they set it in, especially if they choose to set it in the Kelvin universe. That, I think, would be a fucking disaster. Like, if they canceled, like, say, because the only shows left is Strange New Worlds and the Academy show, which hasn't even started. So if they had, say, Academy go for like 2 years, and so it ends at the same time Strange New Worlds ends, and then they just stop that, and then they start all a new bunch of Star Trek shows all set in the Kelvin universe that could coalesce with the films. I don't know if I'd continue watching Star Trek, honestly. I don't think it would be Star Trek anymore. And it's funny because I know a lot of people say that about Discovery and modern Trek as it is, but I think they're wrong and full of it, even though, like, as I said, Discovery does have a lot of flaws, don't get me wrong. And Picard was, yeah, a shit show. But, I mean, Lower Decks and Prodigy and Strange New Worlds were pretty damn good, and people who don't give those shows a chance, I think, are just flat out wrong. But, so I don't think it's, and then there's the Section 31 movie. Don't, like, if there's made more shit that was like the Section 31 movie, then I will most definitely stop watching Star Trek. For sure. Brandon says more like Marvel, head and hands and size. Yeah. I mean, I like Marvel. I think they're good, but whenever franchises try to be like them, they just don't get why it's successful and they're not able to replicate it. They just fall over themselves trying to be like them. Jordan Johnson, I don't see that happening, to tell you the truth. And then Brandon says, Mark, for real? So I don't know. Yeah. Don't know what you were referring to in those instances. A little bit of context helps me. But yeah. So I don't know. I don't know if I have anything more to say on this subject. It's you might be like, oh, why'd you bring up Stephen Colbert? What does that have to do with anything? Well, it has to do with the fact that they're canceling good shows and that they showed no sort of backbone in that whole situation, and so it makes me afraid that they are going to put out shit and that they have no integrity and they're not going to try to do it correctly. And I know a lot, I think I mentioned before, a lot of people are like boycotting Paramount and quitting Paramount Plus and giving the reason, because it asks you, why'd you quit? And giving the reason, because you canceled the Colbert Show and I'm not going to support liars or not going to support cowards or something like that. I'm watching Strange New Worlds. It just started, so I'm not going to cancel it. But I can understand why others might feel that way. I don't, it doesn't seem like Paramount Plus really has that many original programming anymore. It seems like they're canceling most of the original stuff. They just have CBS and Showtime shows, basically. But hey George, how's it going? Um, you give up watching Star Trek? So here's the thing. I will refer you back to The Walking Dead. Back in like 2017 or whenever the fuck it was. When I was reviewing The Walking Dead every week, I was having live discussions with like Josh and Don Willie, and we were like talking about The Walking Dead all the time. And then they had that season finale. I think it was season 6. Yeah, I think it was the season 6 finale, which had me in an uproar, and I was like screaming, and I was like, "What the fuck is this bullshit?" And I'm not gonna get into the whole reason. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. But I was outraged, and I got this comment saying, because one of the things I said is like, "Oh, I'm just this pisses me off so much. I don't know if I'm gonna keep watching The Walking Dead." And I got this comment that was saying, "Oh, whatever, Mark. We know you're not going to stop watching the show." 1 year later, after an entire season of hate watching season 7, I did in fact stop watching the show, and I haven't seen a single thing, haven't touched anything Walking Dead related since, because that show just went jumped the shark so fucking badly with that season 6 finale. It just outraged me, and then season 7 did not make it any better. So yeah, so I was true to my word when people didn't believe me. Now, granted, Star Trek is a totally different situation, because Star Trek is my main obsession, my main thing when I'm doing my whole channel about. But if it became bad, like really, really bad, if it was like Kelvin Universe and every show and TV and every show and every movie was like the Section 31 movie or Picard season 2, then I would definitely quit. I would. Don't you fucking doubt it. Like, as a Star Trek fan, I couldn't bear to see it be like crucified and dead, killed, and animated, like beating the dead body of the franchise. Like, it would be too heartbreaking for me to continue. So in that scenario, and granted, it would have to be a very specific scenario like that, but in that scenario, I definitely could. I am definitely capable of it. And don't be like the bad person who thought I wouldn't quit The Walking Dead, because I fucking did. And I could do the same thing with Star Trek if it got that bad. Now, granted, I think the chances, and maybe I'm just being optimistic here, but I think the chances of it getting that bad are low. Are so low. You'd have to try very hard indeed to disappoint me. No, the chances that are low. I don't think that's going to happen. Now, if they did all in the Kelvin universe, but the shows are actually kind of good or kind of interesting, even if they didn't feel like Star Trek, I still might watch it. I might not be that happy about it, but I still might watch it. And if the shows are like bad, but not like Section 31 bad, then I might hate watch it a bit. But I can only hate watch stuff for so far. It just drains the soul. Like, that's why I gave up Walking Dead eventually. Um, let's see, what else have we got here? Got some comments. How do you feel that the show is ending only one or two more seasons, right? I'll circle back to that. Let me get the rest of the chat first. Brandon, what is this integrity of which you speak? Oh, Jesus Christ. Norman, people are canceling Paramount Plus in protest due to its canceling of The Late Show. Yes, which is what I said. George Moore, anyone watching the Ark season 2, by the end of the season, it started turning into Trek. I have not, I don't think I've even heard of that show, actually. So. Brandon, I don't hate watch. I boredom watch, but I'm a masochist. Yeah, it's hard to boredom. I've had boredom watch some shows before too, and that's hard to do. Let's see. Damn it, Mark. Then you'd be reduced to watching documentaries. No, there's other stuff out there I'd still watch. There's still some good shows on, like Severance and Silo and Black Mirror. I hope they put out more seasons like the last one they did. That was so fucking good. Let's see. I think you're talking about the Ark, so I'll skip that. I haven't seen that. The Wedding in the Wedding Bell Blues gave me Section 31 vibes because it looked so expensive. It didn't give me Section 31 vibes. Because it wasn't a giant piece of shit. um, so yeah, so Jordan was asking me about Strange New Worlds being, well, I wouldn't say canceled, but saying that there's only going to be 2 more seasons. My thoughts on this is pretty much the same as what my sister said. If you watch her channel, if you've seen her channel, is that I'm not upset over it because they announced that they were ending the show like 2 seasons in advance, while season 3 was about to be shown and season 4 is being filmed. They announced season 5 will be the last season. So, in other words, that gives them plenty of time to craft a final ending. And I love that. And I was actually kind of worried. I might have said this in another video that I was worried that they would just end it suddenly, like they did with Discovery and Lower Decks, and not have the chance to give it a proper ending, which I think it does need to have one because it leads into the original series. Like, I still wanted to end with them doing another version of the menagerie, and we see what happens to Pike after the menagerie. I think that would be a good ending. We can see parts of the menagerie with the new actors who played the legacy characters. You assume that eventually we're going to get a McCoy version and a Sulu version. Maybe not Chekhov version, but definitely going to get Sulu and McCoy. But anyway, like, and so I wouldn't really mind that if it fed into the changeover, and that's how the show ended. But the fact that they had time to plan for that and give it a proper ending and not be like Discovery where they like already filmed it and they're like, oh, you're being canceled, so they had to go back and do reshoots and tack on an ending that looked totally tacked on. And Lower Decks, like they did have time to write the final episode, but they didn't have time to really build up to it, and so it was kind of an ending, to be sure, but it was kind of did have that last minute feel. So I'm actually really happy. I'm really satisfied with the fact that they have time. Like, would I like Strange New Worlds to go more than 5 seasons? Sure, but this seems to be the thing now. That with modern track shows, 5 seems to be the magical number now. So, I'm not that upset about it. I actually think it's a good thing that they announced the ending this far in advance and that they have time to do it properly. But just like another thing I will agree with my sister on is the fact that the final season's only going to be 6 episodes. That is what bothers me. Like, the fact that they said, "Oh, it's going to be canceled," I think is actually a good thing. But 6? Why 6 episodes? Come on, what the fuck is that shit? It just kind of leads into like that this new Paramount doesn't really have faith in the Star Trek franchise anymore, and they are trying to just cut it off. Like, I seriously wouldn't be surprised if the Starfleet Academy doesn't last very long and they cancel it almost immediately so they can start their new thing, which I hope wouldn't suck. Yeah, and let me get back to this whole thing about the movie being set in, like, in the distant past. Like, why? Why? Like, they would have to work very, very, very hard to justify said movie. I have the feeling that the reason why they're doing it is because they wanted to feel more contemporary, which is part of the inspiration of Enterprise. But that, of course, was just felt like it took place in the 1950s. Didn't feel where this one would be more like, modern action movie or suspense and that sort of thing, and not really feel like Star Trek, which is pretty much what describes the fucking Kelvinverse films. Although I will say, if you know me, you probably know this already, but I did like Beyond. Beyond was a good movie. And so if they did more stuff like Beyond, I might be okay with it, even if it was in the Kelvin universe, but it would still always irritate me that it would be in the Kelvin universe. Just destroy it. It needs to die. The whole fucking idea of like, oh, let's have it be in another universe. And whenever I hear, like, I was listening to this podcast in Strange New Worlds the other day, and they're like halfway through, they were like, oh, that's why because they were complaining about the Gorn and how it doesn't match up with canon. And believe me, I have my complaints about that too. I think that's a legitimate thing to complain about. But halfway through, they're like, oh, well, the problem is they set this in the prime timeline. They should have set it in another universe like the Star Trek films did. And I like literally screamed at my podcast like, no, you don't fucking do that. That is the dumbest thing. It drives me insane when I ever hear people say that. Oh, because it doesn't want to touch up against canon. Who gives a fuck? Star Trek has been violating canon since the TNG DS9 Voyager days. And I think Voyager like shat on canon more than Discovery ever did. Or Strange New Worlds. And that is just my humble opinion. But who gives a shit? Oh, violates canon. Get over yourselves. Now, I'm not like that extreme of fucking Steve Shives, who literally could not care less about canon. I care about canon, especially when Voyager violates it. But the bridge looks different and the technology is very advanced. Who gives a fuck? God damn it, get over yourselves. And so if Paramount actually listened to these fuckheads and made like set it in another timeline, I might be so pissed off that I'd rage quit it. Honestly, I think this is the dumbest idea. I think people need to stop fucking floating it. Sorry if I'm to anyone listening to this on headphones, but you should know better than to listen to me on headphones. But anyway, where are we at? So let's see. Well, the costumes in the Wedding Bell Blues were elaborate. Yes, they were. Oh crap! I never finished Black Mirror. Oh God, Brandon, you gotta finish Black Mirror. Season 7. So good. It was the best season ever. My humble opinion, of course. But yeah, it's surprising because season 5 and 6 were like very lackluster, and I wasn't even looking forward to 7. I was like, yeah, I don't know. Black Mirror lost its touch, and then it comes out with a season that not only has the classic feel and classic style and classic tone of Black Mirror, but it does it in a much better way than they ever. Because here's the thing. My most favorite season of Black Mirror before this newest season came out was season 4, because the reason I gave is that there's no bad episodes. There's 5 good episodes and some great ones, and only 1 mediocre episode, where other seasons will have 1 or 2 episodes that outright suck or or whatever, and it's the only season that didn't. But season 7 Not only does it not have an episode that sucks, all 6 episodes were fucking great. Like, and 5 of them I would call absolutely amazing. So yeah, it was the first time they ever did that, and I think it's by sticking to what made the show great, the whole technology thing, and not doing this bullshit like horror monsters and the fucking people in the alternate 60s being in space. Like, I'm sorry, that episode pissed me off. I know Alyssa likes it, but I fucking, that episode just pisses me off. Yeah, I mean, I'm all for shows trying something new, but that kind of shit was just not good. And it was gotten away from what made Black Mirror great. The commentary on, near future technology. And they did it in a way that was original. They were doing stuff that was new. It's not like they were just retreading stuff they already did before. They were continuing to push the boundaries, but keeping within that theme that made the show so great. And yeah, so if you notice, I didn't give any spoilers away because I wouldn't do that to you. It's very sort of vague. But anyway, let's see. 5 is the new 7, people. Yeah, that's exactly what I'm saying. Let's see. I muted the chat real quick in case I get to watch the first 2 episodes of Strange New Worlds. Bye, y'all, if the chat's still up later until then. Oh, you haven't seen Strange New Worlds. Yeah. I don't know. We weren't really giving away any spoilers. Jordan Johnson, do you think Chapel and Spock's arc is over now? A few more episodes, perhaps. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I would say it's probably over. I do wonder, speaking of canon, this does kind of annoy me a little bit that they're not the whole Chapel and Spock thing doesn't like line up with the original series at all. And so I wonder, like, my thought was that they were going to have a C-3PO moment, like, in the Revenge of the Sith, where, what's his face, Senator Ghana says that Captain Achilles was like, oh yes, here's the new protocol droid, have his memory wiped. And they did that as a way to say, like, oh, this is why C-3PO doesn't remember Anakin Skywalker or what's his face, Obi-Wan Kenobi or anything like that, because his memory was erased. So I feel like they're gonna need to do something like that with Spock, where he's gonna go through some like Vulcan ritual or something to purge himself of emotions, and he's gonna lose his memory of Chapel. Or maybe they're gonna try to say, because in the fucking original series, Chapel is the one who's constantly crushing on Spock, where here Spock was crushing on her. So I don't know. I think they might do something to try to justify it, or try to say, "Oh no, this is how it lines up." But I don't know. I have my doubts that they would be able to convince me on that one. Yeah, 6 episodes just like GOT. Yeah, that's not a good comparison to have. Don't forget the cool pop song, Mark. Come on, you know you want to. No. Mark, I think this is my new favorite video of yours. Must have been because I lost my shit over I lost my shit about the whole setting in a different timeline. Seriously, like, the whole idea of doing another timeline is just the lazy writer idea to be like, and this is what I said this before in a lot of other videos, that the whole thing about franchises like Star Trek is, if you're coming into it and you're doing another entry in this franchise, you are benefiting. You got a built-in fan base. You got a built-in mythology. You have built-in characters. Even if you make a show with totally new characters, you still have that mythology. You still have that all the fan base. You get all these benefits for free. You get the built-in fans, built-in publicity, built-in, attention paid to your movie or whatever. You have all of this thing, and that does not come for free. It comes at a cost, and the cost is you have to be consistent with said background and said established lore and said established mythology and said established characters. And if you're not, if you be like, I don't give a fuck about any of this shit, I'll just do what I want, then you're cheating. You're being disrespectful, and you're trying to have your cake and eat it too, and you're trying to reap the benefit without paying any of the cost. And that is pure laziness. Laziness and sheer fucking hubris. Sheer fucking hubris. And that's what Joe Manowski tried to do in Voyager. The bullshit about rewriting when Starfleet met the Borg, and the bullshit about saying, oh, 7 of 9 was actually, the Borg Queen put her on Voyager as a spy. Like, I literally never felt my intelligence insulted more by a show by the writers, by a show I was watching than that. That's like fucking crazy. Now, some people might argue that stuff like Strange New Worlds and Discovery that sort of violates canon, do shit with the Gorn, or make Michael Burnham's Spock adopted sister. Like, some of that is really ice skating, skirting around canon, and in a way that you don't really buy. But to me, it's like that's not as big of a what they did with the fucking Klingon makeup. Like, oh god, that was horrible. But even so, like, I think the stuff they did on Voyager was worse. The stuff with the Borg and the Borg Queen. They just had a flagrant disregard. And here's the thing: as much as Modern Trek does violate canon, you know that the writers actually have like, you can tell that they try to respect it to a certain extent. That they do have a respect for canon, especially Lower Decks. My God. And sometimes they deem it, necessary to just skirt around it or outright violate it. If they think it works for the story. And I don't always agree with them that it does. But I still think that they're never, or for the most part, not as disrespectful as Joe Manowski was with the Borg Queen. Sorry. Still hold a grudge against that. Brendan Neilhouse, the super chat. Thanks so much for your super chat donations. Very much appreciated. 30 for sheer fucking hubris. Sheer fucking hubris. Let's see. Jordan Johnson says Dark Frontier, and Brandon says Endgame. Just saying. Well, I think I was referring more to Dark Frontier, but Endgame also applies. Also applies as Voyager shitting all over canon. Shitting all over everything, really. Shitting all over their own show's legacy. But anyway, Jordan Johnson. Mark, so you think we're on the verge of an AI moment like in Star Wars? Let's bring back all our actors and use AI to make them younger. Actually, no, I don't think that. There was that whole like short they did with like Kirk and Spock, and they like deep fake Kirk onto a younger body to make him look like the time of Generations. I don't know if you heard of this or saw this. I never made a video about it or even talked about it on my channel before because I was very like it's a fan film. It's what it is. It's a fan film. That's exactly what it is. And it's not that bad for fan films, but it's got no merit. It's got no value in my opinion. It's It's just, a lot of people are like, oh, I cried when they see it because they gave Kirk and Spock the perfect ending. But it's nothing but fan service. It is nothing but fan service. And here's the thing: if you like that sort of thing, if that like warmed your heart, good for you. Like, I'm not gonna take anything away from you from that. Like, that's they obviously reached their audience that they were trying to reach. So good on them. But that doesn't do anything for me. I'm sorry, it just doesn't. And so no, I don't think they're going to try to deep fake. In fact, I think Star Wars might even move away from that. At least I hope they will, because they got a lot of backlash over this. I think that they might actually hire different actors to play some of the legacy characters like Luke and Leia and Han Solo. And they should. Like, they took the wrong message on why the Solo movie failed. They're like, oh, we shouldn't recast legacy characters. This is why they failed, and this is why they hated it. No, that's not true. They didn't like it because nobody wanted to see a young Han Solo movie. It didn't matter how you did it. No one wanted to see that, and it wasn't that good. That's why the movie failed. And also, the backlash for The Last Jedi probably played a role in it, if we're being honest. So, yeah, they took the wrong message away. So I think Star Wars itself is going to move away from this. And so, no, I don't think Star Trek is going to go down that route as well. Let's see. Sorry, I meant to give more than that. I've grown used to donation alerts and PayPal. Oh, no worries. And anything that you can give is very much appreciated. Um, Sorry, I already read that. I see too many videos made with AI these days. Oh, too many. Sorry, I must be seeing too many videos made with AI. Yeah, it's funny because I was playing around with some editing tools that had AI and like making my own AI videos just for fun. I'd never actually post them on YouTube because I'm not a fucking creep. um, but um, playing around with it and then going and watching YouTube videos gave me like a sharper eye to recognize, like, because there's videos before that I never noticed were AI because they sounded like natural enough, but there's some giveaways. There's some hints. One of them is if they mispronounce something, especially if it's like, a name of a character, a fictional character, or name of a fictional place, or something like that. Like, if they mispronounce it, especially something that everyone knows how to pronounce, like Vulcan or Klingon or something, not like some weird shit that nobody knows how to pronounce, but something that everybody knows how to pronounce, but it's like a fictional name, and they just fuck it up, like Orion or something. That to me is a giveaway. Oh, this is AI. And there's also certain voices that they use a lot. So if I hear that voice, I'm like, oh, that's AI. Um, and yeah, and just like the general way. And plus, like, I've watched a couple of like history videos that were supposed to be telling what happened in history, and the history was like totally off. And I was like, what the hell is this person talking about? And I read the comments, they say this is AI. I'm like, oh, yeah, of course it's AI. But anyway, um, let's see. I'd rather have different actors. Yes, agreed, Norman. Jordan, how about blowing up ships with warp drive? What do you mean? Are you talking about like collisions? Like going into warp and colliding with another ship? Because that I have no issue with. It's if you get to the Star Wars thing, it's the hyperdrive. A lot of the Last Jedi haters were whining about the fact that they Holdo hyperdrive their ship into the First Order's huge Star Destroyer and destroyed it. And they're like, oh, that shouldn't destroy a ship. Like, if all they need to do is put stuff in the hyperdrive, why don't they just constantly have missiles going into hyperdrive? Why don't they constantly have ships going into hyperdrive and colliding with ships? First of all, if you're going to hyperdrive and you're colliding with something, of course it's gonna fucking destroy it. What the hell is wrong with you? Like, of course. Like, this complaint blows my mind. And as to why they don't constantly collide ships into that is because making a huge ship, and that ship that Holdo crashed into them was a big ass ship. Making a huge ship like that, just to crash it into something, would cost a lot of money and resources and time, and it would be totally impractical to do. Now, the whole thing about what about making little missiles that go into hyperdrive? Um, granted, they could have done something like that, but here's my headcanon on that. Missiles are too small to contain an hyperdrive engine capable of going into light speed. And if they said, oh, small ships, then it gets back to my first complaint. Too expensive. Way too impractical to use it just to collide it with something. So that complaint blew my fucking mind. It feels like, to me, honestly, like, I have my issues with Last Jedi too, don't get me wrong. But it feels like people were just looking for stuff to whine about with that movie, because they were so upset about the whole Luke thing that they were just trying to complain about everything about it. That's just my humble opinion. But again, like, I do have my own complaints. I don't think that film's a masterpiece. I do, honestly, like it a lot better than most people do. But to me, the biggest flaw of The Last Jedi has to do with the whole new trilogy, is that it doesn't fit together. It's incohesive. It's completely, like, doesn't flow and doesn't work together. And they didn't have one single creator who oversaw it. And that creator should not be J.J. Abrams, because he's actually just a hack who just tries to do nostalgia baiting and recreate shit that other people did. Honestly, this is my conclusion. I don't think J.J. Abrams is a good director. Um, Now, I could have made a whole video about this, but I don't really have the energy to devote to it. But I could, about, because what did he direct? Mission Impossible 3, which was like a very mediocre standard spy movie with all the cliches and a two-dimensional villain. He did fucking Star Trek 2009, which I already threw out on my complaints about that earlier, and then Into Darkness, which was a step up from 2009, to be honest, but still had a lot of issues. And then he did Force Awakens, which was just, let's do A New Hope again. And then, what's it called? The Last Skywalker. Was it no, it's not The Last. Rise of Skywalker. I get confused. The Last Jedi. Rise of Skywalker, which is just, let's pander to the fans as hard as we can and hope they forgive us. Oh god, that movie was a disaster. It was. Anyway, sorry. Where are we at? I fell asleep watching The Last Jedi. You do, and I'll disown you seriously. What was that in reference to? You do, and I'll disown you seriously. Again, context would be nice. Jordan Johnson, Last Jedi is terrible. And yeah, opinions. And Brandon Neilhouse says Middle Earth videos for the most part, and yeah, the same with history videos. Oh yeah, the AI. Oh, maybe that's what you're saying. If you do, I'll disown you. If I ever do AI, I'm never gonna do AI. Come on, have more faith in me than that. I was just doing it for fun. As I said, I would never release AI videos. Like, you should know me better than that. That's not my thing. I don't do this for money. You know this. And even if I tried to make money off of AI, I don't think I could. And I would never degrade myself by trying. Like, that's, yeah, of course not. But anyway. Oh, Jordan Johnson was talking about The Last Jedi. Well, there you go. So, I hope you answered your question. Um, and then Brendan Nilhouse says, I think he means the Kelpian child. Oh, was that had something to do with warp? That was the burn. The dilithium crystals exploded. That was different than like warp drive. I don't know. I don't know. I don't remember enough about it to say. Practical Mark is all about explosions, man. Kind of like Picard season 3. The Rise of Skywalker, I watched it once, don't remember it. You're probably lucky. Yeah, if you go, yeah, I call it that. Which of course I want. I would never do it. Faith of the heart. You said it, Brandon, not me. Faith of the heart. You've got faith of the heart. Going where my heart will take me. You asked for it, Brandon. Don't you get upset about me singing. You're the one who brought it up. But anyway, yeah, I think this conversation is about run its course. I'm starting to get a little tired. Actually, it's been an hour and 15 minutes, so that's that's a good long stream. I did lose my temper a couple of times, which I know. Yes, that Cool Pop song, absolutely. Well, at least I didn't sing it. That's because you're in the chat. You can't sing it in the chat. Yeah, I knew you'd sing it for me. Yeah, of course I would. Of course, you know I got your back on that. But anyway, yeah, no, I think that about wraps her all up. So yeah, I want to thank everyone who joined me tonight for this last minute impromptu live stream. I would like to hear your thoughts below if you think I'm totally full of shit about some of the things I said in this video, like the whole Star Trek being set in another timeline. Like, oh my god, that drives me insane whenever I hear someone say that. No timelines. They never should have done Kelvin timeline. They should destroy it and never do anything like it ever, ever, ever again. That's what would make me happy. If it makes you happy, get me that bad. Sorry, I don't know why I'm in a singing mood today. Mark, quick update on the channel. How are things going? Yeah, fine. Things are going fine, I guess. I'm having to, I had to cut things back, as you know, start doing less videos, and it has been less stressful on me, and yeah, things are going at a fairly good pace. I mean, it's possible that I might have to cut things back even more if my life becomes even more hectic, but we're not there yet. So hopefully that won't happen, because I want to try to get through this fucking rewatch of Voyager and Enterprise. No, I'm not even up to Enterprise yet. Voyager and Deep Space Nine, because I'm a completionist, and I'm not just gonna stop in the middle of it unless there's like, I get in a car crash or I have a heart attack, or maybe even a heart attack, and once I recover it, I'll be back at it. But I don't know. Or if I'm dead or something, yeah, something like that happens, then of course. But otherwise, I'm determined to finish this. Where's my flag? I had to rearrange my background. It's still there, but you can barely see it. Hold on. It's like behind the... Here. It was hiding. Shit, fell down. It was hiding back there behind all, because it's hard. I wanted to put all this shit there, and yeah, I was just buried up. But not because I'm not proud to be non-binary, but because, yeah, I don't know. It's just, it was when I had it like this, like you couldn't see like the Defiant or like the fucking shit behind it. I don't know. I have to figure something out. Ooh, it fell. Again, so let's see. A completionist is our crossed the bear mark 100%. Anyway, that's about it. I'm gonna wrap things up. Thanks for everyone who joined. Norman Buckwold, Jordan Johnson, Brandon Neal Howells. I think we had George stop by earlier. So yeah, anyone who stopped by, contributed in the chat. Dun, 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 dun. Oh, I didn't put up pictures of. I went to Pride. They had the World Pride Parade in Washington D.C., and I went to that. Uh, and yeah, stood out in the heat for like 6 hours watching that. It was cool. It was a good experience. I enjoyed it. But anyway, that about wraps her all up for me. So thank you, everyone, for joining and enjoying this impromptu live stream. And yeah, we'll see how the future of Star Trek goes. Anyway, as you know, at the moment, I am covering Strange New Worlds, season 3. And I hope it gets better. Not that it's like terrible, because it's not. It's fine, but I want it to be more than fine, personally. But let's see. I think it will get better. And Brandon, I will tell you exactly why I think that way. It's because I've got faith in the heart. I'm going where my heart will take me. And with that, I am out of here. Thank you so much for watching. We'll catch you next time.